This is Rabbi Brovender Parsha Shiur of the WebYeshiva, and let's look again at this problem of Mei Miriva. Before we begin, I want to just mention the fact that this shiur is dedicated to Ilui Nishmat Yitzchak Yehuda Ben Eliyahu Alevi Zilberman Zichrona Livracha by an anonymous donor. There was a problem that Bnei Yisrael had in the desert. They were never satisfied. They were never happy. The pasuk starts by saying, "Kol ha'eda." Sorry. There we are. Vayavo Bnei Yisrael kol ha'eda. All of Bnei Yisrael together, midbar tzin, v'chodesh harishon, v'yeshiv ha'am v'kadesh, v'tamet sham Miriam. So the story begins with the death of Miriam. The death of Miriam, I mean, we have, in modernity, you might say, closure on a stage of Jewish history. Miriam dies, Aaron dies, and Moshe dies. It's the end of the period of history which we call the Yetziat Mitzrayim, 40 years in the desert. A lot of things happened. But there was a lack of rest, a lack of good cheer amongst Am Yisrael. Vatama sham Miriam vatikaver sham. V'lo haya mayim la'ida. Then the pasuk says there was no water. So we know that the water in the desert came because of Miriam. She was responsible for the water. But there was always water. So lo haya mayim la'ida doesn't mean that there was no water. They were in the desert. You can't live in the desert without water. So lo haya mayim la'ida probably means in the way it was when Miriam died, that stopped the availability, the frequency, the things that we don't know. But we can assume that there was something about Miriam that enhanced the idea of water for drinking. Oh, yeah, that's Miriam. Vayikahalu al Moshe el Aaron. Vayarev means they were fighting with Moshe and Aaron. What did they do? Moshe im Moshe. Vayarev im Moshe vayomru lemor. Lu gavanu b'nigo achenu b'nei Hashem. We'd be better off dead. What are we worried about water? V'lama havetem et kahal Hashem el hamidbar hazel amutsham. Why did you bring us to this desert to die? Because there's no water. Or if there is water, there's not good water. And if there is good water, there's not plenteous water. Something about the water was problematic. We're going to die here. Our flocks will die here. V'lama ha'elitanu miMitzrayim. What an argument. Why did you bring us out of Mitzrayim? Laviotanu el hamakom hara hazeh, to this terrible place, midbar tzin, a desert where there's no water. Lo makom zera, you can't grow anything here. Utayina v'gefen v'rimon umayim ein lishtot. There's no water. Nothing. I mean, as I said, I can't have no water. There was no intention made in heaven that the Jews should die because they don't have to drink. Pasuk vayavo Moshe ve'Aaron mipnei hakahal el petach ol moed. Vayavo. This is an important idea that Moshe and Aaron were stymied. Mipnei hakahal, facing the community of Israel, el petach ol moed. They flew out pneihem. They fell on their faces. You know, you fell on your faces, you were sort of bowing down, accepting the situation. It was what Moshe and Aaron said to the people, was that they don't have a solution. They don't have a solution to the problem. right? Mipnei HaKahal el petach ol moed vayiplu al pneihem vayach v'kvod Hashem v'yirak kvod Hashem aleihem. Okay, Hashem is going to come and save the day. But we don't get the story exactly. We don't get the story. What was the problem? Why wasn't there any water? And if there was water, why did they say there wasn't any water? I mean, where did this come from? I mean, because Miriam died, there was an obligation in heaven to stop the water from flowing in the desert. I mean, it's true that they were in the desert because they were being punished, meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put them in the desert. And it's also true that deserts don't usually have water available easily. Okay, so that there's a Miriam's death was connected to the fact they didn't. So that's a fact. Well, what was the argument about? Why couldn't Moshe Rabbeinu just say, "Okay, don't worry, we'll check with heaven, and we'll have an alternative way of getting the water"? I mean, if God brought us to the right up to the desert of Canaan, obviously we're going to go to the land of Canaan. Why would God want us to die because we don't have any water? The whole story doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but let's look at the continuation of the story, which is also a difficult story to understand. By the Hashem el Moshe lemor, new start. In other words, the background is Moshe, Aaron, they have no way of dealing with the situation. They don't understand why Bnei Yisrael came to them. Why Moshe and Aaron is not in charge of water? They're not in charge of water. So Hashem says to Moshe the following, and you have to listen carefully. Take the staff. So Moshe Rabbeinu had a staff. And that staff appears in all kinds of particular usages. Like with the staff, Moshe Rabbeinu can do miracles, make things happen. Ata, you and Aaron, get everybody together, and you speak to the rock. Le'einehem ve'atzar mehem v'hotzeta lehem mayim min hasela. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu has an idea, which he passes on to Moshe and Aaron. And that is that we'll do it. They want water. They're unhappy. You have nothing that you know how to do to get the water to flow. So I'm telling you what to do. Dibarta melasela, take the mateh, talk to the rock. Le'einehem, v'nitach meimav, v'otzi lahem mayim min hasela, v'ishkita et ha'am. This is it. This is the solution. There'll be water. You'll drink the water. The sheep, the flocks will drink from the water, and everything will be wonderful. And so the pasuk emphasizes that Moshe Rabbeinu did what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him to do. And what was the thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him to do? So the pasuk says, "Vayikach Moshe the mateh." He did what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him. Milifnei Hashem ka'asher tzivahu. Emphasis, emphasis, emphasis. Moshe Rabbeinu is doing it because God told him to do it. Vayakilu Moshe v'Aaron et hakahal el pinei hasela. He took everybody and they looked at this rock. That's like, a big rock in the desert. Vayomer lahem shim'una hamorim, and he said to them, "Listen to me, you wayward types. Hamin hasela hazeh notzi lechem mayim. You think we can get water out of this stone? Notzi lechem mayim." Vayarem Moshe. So Vayor Moshe Vayachet Asela, et Hamateh Vayachet Asela, and he hit the rock. V'mateu pa'amayim, twice. Vayetzu mayim rabim, v'teish ta'ida u'be'iram. So Moshe Rabbeinu did something, and he got water. He got a lot of water. He hit the rock twice. And he had a lot of water. Okay, I don't know why. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu hit the rock? Why not? I mean, it worked. I mean, whatever it was, Moshe Rabbeinu understood from what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him. I mean, everything is fine, but look, it's not fine. Vayareh Moshe et ha'mateh v'yachad ha'sela v'yachad ha'sela v'mateu pa'amayim. He hit the rock twice. Why twice? Vayetzu mayim rabim. A lot of water came out of the rock. V'teisht ha'eda u'v'iram. V'teisht ha'eda u'v'iram. Remember, they were worried that they wouldn't have anything to drink and that the flocks wouldn't have anything to drink. Everybody's drinking away like crazy. Vayoma Hashem el Moshe. And as a result of this story, right? The first part of the story is about Miriam. The second part of the story is about Moshe Rabbeinu and the rock. And finally, at the end of the story, Pasuk Yud Bet, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aharon, Ya'an lo hemantem bi like the sheni le'nei b'nei Yisrael, l'chein lo taviu et ha'kahal hazeh el ha'aretz asher natati lehem. Can you imagine that? Like, what happened here? Moshe became an Epicurus. He became a guy whose name is on the stuck on the wall in the synagogue. Don't talk to him. This is what it says about Moshe Rabbeinu. I mean, again, Vayetzu mayim rabim, v'teish ta'ida v'iram. Pasuk Yud Bet. Vayoma Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aharon, Yan lo hemantem bi. Lo hemantem? What is emunah? Emunah is accepting the dominion of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said there's going to be water, so there'll be water. So what did Moshe Rabbeinu do? He made water, directed by Hashem, by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's lo yad lo hemantem? How can you even say such a thing? I mean, I'm not arguing with the Torah. I'm just saying that it doesn't feel, it doesn't continue. It's not a story. Which could mean you had an opportunity to sanctify me and you didn't do it. You didn't sanctify. Why didn't he do it? B'nai Yisrael. L'chein lo taviu et ha'kahal hazeh el ha'aretz asher natati lahem. Therefore, you're going to be punished. I mean, you'll be punished anyway. They've already been punished. They've been in the desert for 40 years. Well, our own non lohem mantem be like the sheni. What an accusation. You didn't believe to sanctify me. Therefore, you, Moshe and Aaron, lo taviu, you are not going to bring the kahal hazel haaretz asher natati lahem. I gave them the land, but not you. You're not part of the giving. You're not going to give them the land. Asher natati lahem. And then finally, Pasuk Yud Gimel Hema Memriva Asher Rabu B'nei Yisrael et Hashem Vayikadesh Bam. Okay, this story goes down in history. Let's see if we can make a little bit of sense out of it. Okay, we'll look at the Rashi. Yan lo ha'emantem bi. Kala katuv. שאילולי חטא זה בלבד היו נכנסים לארץ. If this was the only sin of Moshe Rabbeinu, they would have been able to go into Eretz Yisrael. כדי שלא יאמרו עליהם, you should not speak about them. כעוון שעדור המדבר, שנגזר עליהם, שיען לא האמנתם בי. In other words, you don't want Bnei Yisrael to think that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go into Eretz Yisrael for the same reason that Bnei Yisrael who left Mitzrayim didn't go into Eretz Yisrael. The ones who left Mitzrayim were the ones who built the golden calf. And because of that, they were punished. And it turned out that the punishment for Moshe Rabbeinu, which was that he's not going to go into Eretz Yisrael, was the same. So a person might think that there was some connection, but there wasn't. Moshe Rabbeinu was being punished for a separate problem. That's the Ein Lo Hamantim Bi Lakti Sheni. Lakti Sheni means to sanctify. Sanctify is a word that I don't understand, but that doesn't stop me from using it. Lakti Sheni means separate. There's a separateness to God. God is not like anything else that we have ever experienced. So that's Lakti Sheni. Rashi, listen to Rashi. She'ilu dibartem el hasela. If you would have spoken to the rock which HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, dibartem el hasela, v'otzi hayiti mekudash le'enei ha'eda. So Rashi says, if you would have done what I told you to do, which was to speak to the rock, then you would have been Hareini Haiti Mekudash Le'enei Ha'eda. Mekudash, meaning they would say, wow, only God could do that. Only Hashem could do that kind of a miracle. V'omrim Masela Zeh She'eino Midaber Ve'eino Shomea Ve'eino Tzarich Liparnasa. This rock doesn't hear, doesn't talk, doesn't know what's going on. Mikayem diburo shel makom. Even that rock follows directions from heaven. Kal v'chomer anu, certainly us. So Rashi says clearly that the problem was that Moshe Rabbeinu hit the rock. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, speak to the rock. So if we look again, if I go back, all these technological gizmos are really good, but you have to spend a lifetime figuring out how to do it. Anyway, look here, with the Be'er Shem El Moshe Le'mo, Pasuk Chet, Kachet HaMateh, that's what it says, Mateh, V'akel et ha'ida, Chad Tavet Biram, Vayikach Moshe et V'dibartem el hasela. You see under that red line, V'dibartem el hasela, and you'll speak to the Sela. So according to Rashi, the sin of Moshe Rabbeinu in this matter, sin. It's not like Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to do something against what HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded him to do. However, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, speak to the Sela, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, well, then he hit the Sela. So the Rishonim all agree that this is a kind of difficult position that Rashi assumes. Because what difference does it make to the idea of God controlling the world if it's done through the Mateh, if Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock, or Moshe Rabbeinu talks to the rock? The last we noted was that if you talk to the rocks as you find them in the streets of Yerushalayim, none of them will bring forth water. So what's the difference if you speak to the rock or you hit the rock? In both cases, it's miraculous. And miraculous means it couldn't have happened without intervention of the divine. So why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu is being accused of not being able to understand the enormity of the issue that is hitting the rock or talking to the rock? And so this is I remember the Barbanel collects all of the oppositionary positions to this idea that Moshe Rabbeinu did something wrong by talking to the rock. And again, he says the miracle that occurred when Moshe Rabbeinu talked to the rock was not any less. No, when Moshe Rabbeinu hit the rock, there was a miracle, and the water came out. And there's no doubt that if Moshe Rabbeinu had hit the rock, the miracle would not be any less. I mean, we don't expect hitting the rock to produce that kind of result. The other problem that the Barbanel pointed to was the fact that by the Hashem Moshe Lemor Pasuk Zion, Kachet HaMateh. Doesn't it say Kachet HaMateh? Take the staff. And isn't it true that the staff was a kind of a miraculous staff and was miraculous in its way? And so God said to him, take the staff. Isn't it true that that's a kind of reasonable conclusion that Moshe had? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted him to do something with the staff? It wasn't like take the staff so you look good. So you look like those biblical pictures of people with staffs. Not like that. If God said take the staff, that meant the staff was going to play a role. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so Moshe Rabbeinu understood that the way to get the water out of the rock was to use the staff. And that's what he did. So I think that the book of Bamidbar, we've discussed it on several occasions, that the book of Bamidbar is the book of, as the Netziv pointed out, right? Remember, I'll just summarize. The Netziv pointed out, the Netziv is not the only one, but he's the one that I quoted. Why is the book of Bamidbar called Sefer HaPekudim, the book of countings, plural? Why is it called that? So, of course, the simple answer is that because the people of Israel are counted twice in the book of Bamidbar. Once in the beginning of the Sefer, in the parshas of Bamidbar and Naso, and once at the end of the parsha, at the end of the book, in the parsha of Pinchas. And the Netziv explained that there's a difference between the people who were asked to live 38 years in the desert, in a miraculous world that was organized and by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the people who came into Eretz Canaan, who were forced to fight in wars against the native population, and they were essentially a people with a different kind of opportunity. So the first group of people, the people left Mitzrayim, they had the opportunity to live with God. That was an important way to ground their understanding of their of their obligation. And the people came into Eretz Canaan, well, they were going to live a normal life, and they were going to affect the people in the land in a normal way, that they could appreciate spiritual advantages, even though they were not any longer living in the world that was designated as divine. So the Netziv and others beside the Netziv point out that Bamidbar is transitional, leaving the old world and going into a new world. And the old world that they're leaving included Moshe and Aaron, and Bnei Israel understood that the new world that they're going into, the land of Canaan, they're not going to be led by the miraculous world of Moshe and Aaron. They're not going to be those people who eat the man and drink the water of Miriam's wells. They're not going to be those people who could complain about food and drink and being in the desert. But they're the people who are going to have to live with the challenges of reality. If they need food, they're going to have to get food. They need something to drink, they're going to have to get it. But right now, they're still living in that world, in the world of Yetziat Mitzrayim, the world where HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes everything available to them. So in that world, they see that the situation, the water has changed. It's not so much about water that they're complaining, but they're complaining about the fact that they have lost out the world in which they were living in the desert. And they're going to trade it in for a different world, led by Yoshua ben Nun, who is primarily an activist, a fighter, a warrior. It wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu. He wasn't the person who brought the Torah into the world, a world which needed to be satisfied for Torah, special world. And only those people who were satisfied by the world of Torah would be able to recreate a world in Torah. Like they would be able to plant the Torah into the world that they found in the land of Canaan. The desert is not a place where regular people can live. Canaan is a place where people can live. And that was the switch that they were going through in Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron, Miriam, closure. They no longer are leading. They're no longer determining the nature or the underpinning of Am Yisrael, which happened several times in Jewish history. It happened to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who became the underpinning of Am Yisrael. Everybody, all the Jewish people are children in the world of ideas of Abraham, of Yitzchak, of Yaakov. And similarly, the people who received the Torah in a kind of a Garden of Eden. But they took that Torah with them into the real world. There's some kind of connection that they maintained between themselves and the world of the divine, the Gan Eden of the desert. And they took that with them into the real world in Canaan. And in that real world, they were able to plant the Torah. And it took root. And it seems to have continued until today. Until today. So we see here. So there's something that something about Moshe Rabbeinu, what he did that he didn't understand. And because he didn't understand it, I think that's why there was Yan lo ha'amantem bi. You didn't trust me. Why didn't you trust me? What do you mean? What was Moshe Rabbeinu supposed to do? So it seems to me we could say that Moshe Rabbeinu was charged to bring the mateh, the staff, and not to use it. Don't use it, Moshe Rabbeinu. Just bring it. Just stand there. Well, why should he stand there with the mateh? This was his mistake. He thought if the Kodesh Baruch told him to bring a mateh, that he should bring it. So my feeling is that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to tell Bnei Yisrael that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge. There's no intermediary. There's no one who can provide information about what's going to be. That only comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if you thought that Moshe Rabbeinu can do it, I'm going to show you that that's not the case. Moshe Rabbeinu would stand there with the mateh and not use it. He came down to the people and he said, here I am. HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded me, and commanded me means uniquely commanded me. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can solve this kind of a problem. And so Moshe Rabbeinu would stand there with the mateh, and the water would come out from the cellar, and people would understand that it's not the mateh that did it, and it's not Moshe Rabbeinu that did it. Our world is now the world under God, so to speak. We're under God. So Moshe Rabbeinu seems to have made a mistake. Maybe we could explain that as well, but seems to have made a mistake. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to him, take the mateh. And the reason for taking the mateh was to show that the mateh was irrelevant. Not that the mateh was relevant, but that it was irrelevant. And that whatever they thought about the water, about the food, about the heat, about the cold, they had to understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was uniquely in charge of the world. And this became the rationale for whatever they did in Eretz Canaan and whatever they tried to produce over the years. So Moshe Rabbeinu made a mistake based on the fact that previously HaKadosh Baruch Hu had told him to use the mateh to create certain kinds of changes in the world, right? The makot in Mitzrayim, the plagues in Mitzrayim, for example. So Moshe Rabbeinu, and because of that misunderstanding, and because the people of Israel might be mistaken in the way they evaluate what Moshe Rabbeinu did, is all of that is kilo. Kilo hemantim bi, lakdisheni. Lakdisheni means again to emphasize the uniqueness of God's dominion. Lakdisheni. Ve'inei b'nei Yisrael. L'chein lo taviu et ha'kahal hazeh. You won't bring this kahal to the land that I have promised them. Shenatati lahem. Hema mei meriva asher ravu b'nei Yisrael ela et Hashem vayikidash bam. So this was one of the last acts that Moshe Rabbeinu did as the great educator of Am Yisrael. People might be mistaken. This we could see at the end of the Parsha of Shalach. We don't have time for it now. But the mateh was important to people who needed that kind of justification. They needed the magic that was known in the world at that time. In that world, the magic of Egypt. Remember that when Moshe Rabbeinu threw down the staff, this mateh turned into a snake. He picked it up, it turned back into a staff. And that the Egyptians were able to do the same thing. And we're going to come shortly, we're going to be learning about Bilam, also a magician. And his magic was something that was well known and might have been the root of what happened with the Egel HaZahav. But in fact, Moshe Rabbeinu was educating. He was saying, in spite of what happened in Egypt, where it was important there is no reason to think that the Mateh has independent powers. The Mateh is just a Mateh, and the miracle is uniquely God's. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu's mistake was, it would seem, and why he was upbraided by God for denying the special Kedusha, the sanctity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, all the best. Be well.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shkoyach, Rabbi.